Astral Authority. This is a team most people would recognize under the name Salsa Squadron, and a team that has played countless community tournaments throughout their time together. They've played in things like Friday Night Smite, the Battle for Valhalla, but most notably, and most importantly, the Challengers Cup. After placing very highly in the Spring Challengers Cup, the team returned into the Fall Split to come back with something to prove, and week 1 we see them seeded against 38 other teams. Now, even though the odds in a 38-team bracket tend to lean against you, this team had enough experience under them that nobody was too surprised to see that Salsa Squadron was able to find their way to the finals. In the semifinals, they did face Team Way, which gave them a little bit of a hiccup, Team Way being one of the teams that would have a very strong showing in the Challengers Cup, but ultimately, Salsa Squadron found themselves up against friends and rivals, Relegation Rejects. The Relegation Rejects and Salsa Squadron had faced each other at this point countless times. They knew each other like the backs of their hands, and of course, that would mean we would get to see some great games. Even though Salsa Squadron was able to find it in a 2-0, Relegation Rejects put up a very strong fight. They were very close matches, but ultimately Salsa Squadron came out on top, securing first seed into the second week. Once again in week 2, people were unsurprised to find Salsa Squadron getting their ways to the finals. The only team this time that might have given them a little bit of a hiccup was Slaughter Slugs in the semifinals. However, this week was a little bit different. They did find themselves this week against Relegation Rejects in the finals again. The games were even closer this week, and in fact, Relegation Rejects were the ones who were able to squeeze out the victory. The set went to 3 games, and each game seemed like it could go either way, but ultimately Relegation Rejects were able to topple Salsa Squadron and bring themselves to the number 1 seed for week 3. Going into week 3, we get to see Salsa Squadron once again fight their ways to the finals, having that second seed actually seeming to benefit them as they go through the bracket. And they once again, for the 3rd week in a row, find themselves against Relegation Rejects. This week, however, Relegation Rejects had a roster change. They had a little bit of a slip-up, and it showed. The team was playing slightly sloppier than they had before. Their semifinals was a little bit closer than they would have liked. And Salsa Squadron, because of the practice they had put in after losing the last week, they were able to take this one in a very easy 2-0 set for them, thus re-securing their seed as number 1 going into week 4 of the open bracket phase. Now this would be the last week of open bracket. Salsa Squadron had already confirmed their spot for the round robin stage, so at this point it was simply for seeding purposes. Once again fighting their way to the finals, they would find themselves against Circuit Esports, a team that would find themselves fighting in Group B of the round robin stage to try and find their spot in the semifinals. The finals, however, this week were up against Aquaman and the Waves, the team that they will be facing this Sunday in the finals for the Challengers Cup. Salsa Squadron, not one to disappoint, was able to come out on top in 2 very decisive victories. Aquaman and the Waves were able to put up a very strong fight, but ultimately Salsa Squadron came up on top. At this point, Salsa Squadron is coming into the round robin week 1 portion of the Challengers Cup. They were in Group A up against 3 other teams: Relegation Rejects, Kids Next Door, and Stupid Noobs. All 4 of these teams would play each other once this week and once again the next week to determine the seeding and who would ultimately go on to the semifinals. After 2 games, Salsa Squadron would find themselves up 2-0, going against the only other team at this point who had gotten 2-0 in the bracket, which was Relegation Rejects. After a grueling match for them, Salsa Squadron was able to take it and secure a 3-0 spot, putting themselves as the top seed out of Group A for week 1. Once again, pushing themselves up, finding themselves after 2 games at a 2-0 win-loss, we would see Salsa Squadron go once again against Relegation Rejects. Much like the week before, after a grueling match, Salsa Squadron was able to secure the 3-0 and secure first seed out of Group A and first seed in the semifinal matchup. Now the semifinals were where things were going to be a little bit hairy. At this point, everything is on the line. Any game lost is going to be something that can be a huge detriment to your team. Salsa Squadron came in and were up against Circuit Esports NA. Salsa Squadron was able to take the first 2 games and looked like they were going to be able to close out this best of 5 as a 3-0, but Circa did not want to let that happen. Pulling out some pocket picks in games 3 and 4, Circa was able to push this match to the 5th game of the set, everything on the line for whoever could take the last game. Salsa Squadron, a little bit on their toes, were able to ultimately squeeze that one out and secure their spot in the finals, and in a player interview after the game, mentioned how they were never truly worried even though they had lost those 2 games, and that they knew that they would be able to secure the victory that they wanted. Now they find themselves sponsored by Astral Authority and going up against Most Wanted, formerly known as Aquaman and the Waves. Previously, this team has been able to take down Most Wanted without too much of an issue, but now we're going to be seeing Most Wanted come back a little bit stronger than they were in Week 4 of the Challengers Cup. Whoever wins this matchup will be moving on to the Gauntlet with a lot on the line. If they can move past that, they have a chance at going to Worlds. This is huge for this team, and I can guarantee that they've been practicing as hard as they can to get there.